Next, we're going to take a look at rendering, and we're going to start off with the Render Settings menu. Now, you've probably seen this a little bit before, but let's go ahead and go through some of the common settings in Render Settings. So we can get to the Render Settings window in two ways. We can go into Windows, Rendering Editors, Render Settings. There's also a nice little button here on the status bar. So let's go ahead and click that. And in this window here, we've got a lot of options. Now, the tab I'm going to focus on is the Common tab. Now, depending on the renderer that you have, you will have other tabs in here. This is the Maya Software tab. We have a tab for Maya Hardware, Maya Vector. We have multiple tabs for the Arnold renderer. Now, regardless of which one you have, you will have some common features for this, such as file size and so on. So let's take a look at some of these. So I'm going to go back to Maya Software Renderer. And when you have Maya Software Renderer enabled, you do have a color management tab that you might not have in other renderers. But we do have some common tabs here. One is File Output. Now this will determine the output file name as well as the image format. Now this is for when we are batch rendering. So if we want, we can type in a name here. And notice how we have it in parentheses and saying using scene name. And basically what it's doing is it's just using the name of this file. And you can see this file name up here. If we're rendering animation, you'll see from this to this. You'll also see image size. Now we can change the type of file that we're rendering to. It defaults to Maya IFF, but we can change it to TIFF or Targa or whatever we want. Now down here under Frame Animation Extension, we have a couple of options here. By default, it's typically on name or name.extension, which is a single frame. So if you're rendering just individual images, you can use this. If you're rendering animation or multiple images, you'll want to go to some of these on the bottom. Now what they have is a name, a pound sign, and an extension. And really all they're doing here is just rearranging the order of these. So you just pick the one that works well for you and go with that. So if I pick this one here, you'll see that it's rendering from here to here. And then we also have frame padding, which is really just the number of leading zeros. And you can see these again increase or decrease as I scale this up or down. Now if we go a little bit further down, we'll have frame range. We have a start frame and an end frame, and I can type in really whatever numbers I want. We can also render alternate frames or every third frame. So if we change this from 1 to 2 to 3, we can basically just render only certain frames. Now if we want to, we can also skip existing frames so it doesn't overwrite frames that have already been rendered. And we can renumber frames if we want, so we can change our start number. Now if we go a little bit further down, we have renderable cameras. Now if we have multiple cameras in the scene, we will need to pick which one gets rendered when we do a batch render. So in this case, we have the perspective window highlighted, but we can choose any camera in the scene. And then finally, we have image size. Now we can pick any one of a number of standard image sizes and ratios. I'm currently using HD 540, but we can also change this however we want. So if I want to type in a custom width or height, I can do that. If I want to type in a custom device or pixel aspect ratio, I can do that as well. So that way I can get, say, non-square pixels. So these are some of the basic render settings that you will use in Maya.